yourselves,
Go do it.
guys.
Take care.
Everybody,
Good luck, Jamal.
Guys and gals, take care of yourselves. Join us now on the Comcast Business Hotline, where every day is a big day. Let Comcast Business help you move forward with what's next. He covers the birds for the Inquirer. Experience the new look of Inquirer Sports, where fans can read, watch, and listen to their favorite reporters and columnists. Go to theinquirer.com/sports. And, of course, that's where you can follow all the work of our man, Jeff McLane. Jeffrey, good morning. Happy day one of OTAs, where it's public to the media.
Yes, that sums it up.
Yeah, exactly.
And a rainy day.
Inside.
And a rainy day in the bubble.
It's not going to be
But in the bubble, right? I mean, they're not going to make you stand out in the rain, right?
We'll see what it's like when they actually have practice. I think it's like around 1:30 or 1 o'clock. Maybe if it's drizzling, they'll go. I mean, the practices aren't going to be very long.
Yeah.
But my guess is that they'll be inside today, which kind of a little bit of a bummer because obviously not a full field there, and there's only so much room, and they got almost 90 guys, and they put us in a corner, and it's really hard to see what's going on. But I'll try my best to give you guys the practice observations.
Thanks, Jeff. We appreciate that. This is why we turn to you. And so I'm curious, today at 12 o'clock, around 12 o'clock scheduled, Kevin Patullo will speak. And we're curious. So I know the deal of a reporter. You like to find stories, and sometimes you have an idea of what story you want to write. So you know that there will be some specific questions being asked. What is something that you're looking to hear from Kevin Patullo today when he talks about the upcoming 2025 season as the new OC?
I probably the first time, sitting up there in front of at least, the room publicly, just kind of a presence about, what you plan to do this year. I don't think there can be much in terms of specifics, as you would expect, in terms of the scheme and, how they're going to use certain players, this, that, the other thing. But, generalities, I guess, will probably be okay in that regard, but also just more just how he kind of, carries himself, holds himself. Certainly that'll be something I'm looking forward to seeing. I have gotten to know Kevin pretty well, just covering him. I know he's not up there on the podium weekly like, previous offensive coordinators, and he has spoken at times before, specifically when Nick couldn't coach the one game because he got COVID back in 2021, I believe. Yeah. And Kevin had to step in basically and be the head coach on the field. We got to talk to him publicly then, but have gotten to know him pretty well, and he's a pretty composed guy. He's been around for a long time, good dude. Just on the surface, beyond football. So I think that's, what I think the rest of the fan base will see today.
Is it unfair, Jeff, when I look at his resume and say 18 years of experience to get to be an NFL play caller, when I look at guys like, Sean McVay and Shanahan and in Green Bay, and I'm drawing a blank for a second here, getting to do it in 6 years, 7 years, that it took 18?
Sometimes they chase guys a little longer, Doug Peterson, how long did it take before he became a play caller? Now he played in the league a fair amount. Maybe that set him back a little bit, but he won a Super Bowl. So, look, it moves differently for other guys. Some guys, McVay had a name. Shanahan had a name, right? They had fathers that, or they're related to guys who had prominent roles in the NFL, so that certainly helps them as well. So, right? And I'm not taking anything away from either of those guys because they both became offensive play callers at a very young age, and they're both two of the better ones in the league. But some guys it takes a little longer. He kind of has been in Nick's shadow a little bit here for a while, and I'm sure that he probably had opportunities to leave and kind of hung around thinking that, okay, you're going to be next guy, you're going to be next guy. And, sometimes you kind of, and anybody I think can relate to this in any job that you're in, should I wait it out or should I go somewhere else? And he chose to wait it out, and now he's being rewarded for that. But he has to go out there and deliver. As you mentioned, he's never called plays. But he's done a lot of the legwork on that, and my guess is it won't be a huge transition for them, but him. But that being said, there's a reason why certain guys get to call plays and certain guys don't. There is a skill set there.
Do you believe Kevin Patullo and Nick Sirianni and really the entire Eagles coaching staff will almost make more of a point to not give Saquon Barkley the ball as much, at least early on in the season, considering his workload last year?
I mean, I think that probably could be more of a result of just how defensively they're playing them. They're going to be intent on stopping him. There's no doubt that defensive coordinators, the ones that are facing the Eagles and the ones who probably expect to face them sometime in the postseason, are trying to devise ways to stop what they did on the ground with Saquon. Now, a lot of it is, it didn't really matter. They lined him up, and the Eagles' offensive line or Jalen Hurts being able to keep the ball kept the defenses at bay for a long time, but a lot of it was just Saquon. But I think in terms of the workload, it is a concern. I think all told, the number was over 500 in terms of touches. That's a lot for anyone. Saquon isn't a spring chicken anymore. I'm not saying he's old, but, he's getting close to that age of 30, and you have to kind of be cognizant of that. They did extend him this offseason and gave him more money. So that all factors into it as well. But I think the main thing is just basically how our defenses are playing them. I think that far and away will probably dictate how much he's used, and I think that's where Jalen Hurts and the receivers and the pass protection step in.
When the players talk to you guys about the teaching element of OTAs, what do they speak of? What do you learn about the teaching part of this whole exercise?
It's huge. It's a lot of what happens during this period, even into training camp, especially with the rookies or the guys who are new to the scheme. A lot of the teaching stuff happens in the classroom, but a lot of it does happen on the field. It depends, how you look at it. I think Nick likes to do a lot of it on the field. I remember back with Chip Kelly, the practices, obviously because of the tempo, didn't allow for a lot of stopping and going over things or, just so fast-paced. He felt that the teaching needed to be done in the classroom predominantly. Most coaches will do it a little differently and try and do it on the field. But, it's technique. It's, there's just a lot that goes into it beyond just the scheme stuff, too. It's, right, how do you what kind of leverage are you using on this play? What do you, scheme-wise, how are we lining up? If you're playing inside linebacker, for instance, in Vic Fangio's scheme, right, when you have this number of receivers on your side and the rock combination is this, do you cover the hitch? Do you cover the underneath guy or whatever it is? And that's a lot of stuff that is thrown on the plate of these guys. And what I will say is that with as good as the defense was last year, you got to think in year two in Vic Fangio's scheme. I don't know if I'm not necessarily saying it's going to be better, but I think what we saw last year with being a little bit of a slow start, I think they may be able to avoid that this time around.
Jeff, you obviously followed the story of Dallas Goedert, and you were the first one to tell us that there could be a change of scenery for Dallas Goedert. And, of course, they then reworked the contract for him to come back. Is there any player from now until the start of the regular season where there could be a surprise cut or release or a trade of a player? Is there anybody that you're still keeping an eye on, or do you think this roster is pretty much set?
Oh, I certainly think the roster is pretty much set. I'm trying to think. Off the top of my head, I don't think anyone's potentially going to be moved, and it's certainly not a big name or a potential cut. That doesn't really happen as much at this point. There could be a few guys that maybe, borderline roster guys like that they signed to free agent contracts. Josh Uche, for instance, all right? A guy who had production, 10-plus sacks at one point in his career, but he's probably looking for a little bit of a second chance here, and he's getting it, but didn't really get a big contract. So some of those free agents maybe that they signed, and we've seen it, remember Devin White last year? Everyone thought this is going to be one of the starting inside linebackers. And we all saw what happened there. Wasn't active from the get-go and eventually was released.
Looking forward to senior coverage, and I'm sure a whole nother list of things that you're going to be uncovering the birds with as a bunch of topics you're probably looking to get into.
We're hoping to have a couple episodes here before the break here. And then, obviously, during the summer, I will certainly not be thinking about the Eagles for an extended period. And
that keeps your marriage alive, I guess, is probably that's part of it.
Keeps me from still wanting to do it.
Well, please, because it's great coverage, and it is, honestly, I think it's one of the best listens for any Eagles fan. It's always great stuff, Jeff.
I appreciate that, John. Thank you. And then we'll be coming back, and obviously after training camp, and or once training camp starts and kicking into full gear and hopefully giving the listeners what they've come to expect and maybe a little more.
You're the man, Jeff. We appreciate it. As